tragedy. Workers at the MTA are stunned that one of their own was murdered on the job. A passenger surrendered to deputies a short time later. Hal Eisner is live in West Hollywood with the latest tonight. Hal?
Well, I talked to a detective tonight who told me, I was just going to quote him here, what happened here in West Hollywood just makes absolutely no sense. It was up there on Santa Monica Boulevard, about 9 o'clock this morning, closer to the La Cienega side. A sole passenger in an MTA bus on line 105 pulled a weapon and shot the bus driver. 51 years old, had worked for the MTA for 5 years. He was brought here to the sheriff's station, and here, right now, some cell video to give you a sense of what it was like in the minutes immediately following the shooting.
5 minutes ago, you heard the shot. Where were you when you heard it?
We were right there, and we saw that man fly down.
Did you see anyone else?
No.
What you're hearing there are witnesses talking to deputies. At least one witness said that after the shooting, the 51-year-old driver, the suspect jumped through a window of the bus and then waited to be arrested. That didn't take very long because this happened very close to the sheriff's station and deputies got there very quickly. The bomb squad was called out later in the day because the suspect had left a suitcase on the bus, and there was concern given the strangeness of what had already occurred during the day, but the bomb squad determined it was harmless and they left. Meanwhile, one of those who got here very early, Lieutenant John Sullivan, talked to me tonight.
As far as I can tell, that MTA hasn't had an operator murdered in over 41 years, perhaps never.
So your reaction to that?
It's a tragedy.
Duh.
No
what else do you think?
It's a tragedy.
There are cameras on that bus, right?
Dumb news guy.
Security videos are on every bus in the system, as well as on board the trains. And the contents of the video in this
My
case,
homeboy's a bus driver.
We talked with MK officials. They told me this.
But he's from the hood and former military, so he's not scared of nothing.
Nothing like this has ever happened before, and we are trying to understand exactly
Thank God for that.
what happened here. Here at the West Hollywood Sheriff's Station, a suspect is being held, but has not yet been booked. According to deputies we just spoke with a few minutes ago, it's because they haven't completed the questioning of him. All we know about at this point is he's about 40 years old, and they tell us the investigation continues. Laura, Susan?
Eclipse the sun in the western United States. We only saw a partial eclipse here in Southern California. It reached its peak at 6:38 tonight. People in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Reno, Nevada were lucky enough to see a full eclipse.
We saw it from Walmart.
By the moon. Christina Gonzalez joined thousands of eclipse
The ring.
hoping for a glimpse of something they may never see again in their lifetimes.
Oh, wow. Wow, I see the moon.
It's beautiful. Basically, at the
Beautiful.
yeah.
It's beautiful.
Like a pizza with like a big old like circle sliced out of it or something like that.
Here is the eclipse as he sees it. Is that like the coolest thing or what?
It's amazing.
It's really cool. Someone should really take a look at this.
Duh. Stupid.
Go to Dobsonian telescope.
Can you explain to me what
I
you
have a white light solar filter on the front of it, which is cutting out 99.99% of all the visible light going through the telescope. You don't have to get too fancy to see it.
What did you guys do?
Using this little projector here, where the sun comes through the hole in the back, and we can see it on the piece of paper.
My science teacher, when we had an eclipse, taught us how to do that.
Oh my gosh, so tell me what goes through your heart when you see all these
Down there on
people here.
Cucamonga.
Whoa, man, this is cool.
Hey, perhaps there is something to the whole mystical, positive aspect of it.
That is so cool.
Supposedly that's good vibes for humanity and for everyone, so
We're trying to absorb as many good vibes as you can possibly absorb.
absorb them and share them with everyone, yeah.
It's good to share the moment with everybody, right?
That's a girl.
It's I don't know.
Ma Flora.
Definitely
Crazy looking honey.
type of vibe. What do you say we don't wait till the next one to be this nice to one another? At Griffith Park Observatory, I'm Christina Gonzalez.
I met Christina Gonzalez. She's cool.
Protesters clashed with police during an anti-war demonstration near the Nato summit in Chicago. In an act of symbolism, dozens of Afghanistan and Iraq war vets took their war medals and threw them away. They say NATO's military policies are a complete failure. Craig Boswell is live in Chicago, where we're hearing some of the protesters may have regrouped tonight. Craig?
And good evening to you. Yeah, that emotional kind of ceremony where the U.S.
Nobody said good evening to you.
Talking to this crowd. Times when the crowd settled down today really listened to what many of them were saying as they
Sorry,
were
bro.
tossing
Nobody
their
said
medals
good
over the
evening
fence
to
towards
you.
the convention center that is behind us. As you mentioned, though, also
Speak up.
protesters are lively tonight in other portions of town. Here, they've cleared these streets, which is a couple
Other
of
parts
blocks
of town.
away from the convention center, where
Other
the NATO summit
areas
will take place again
of the
tomorrow.
city.
But it was a very different scene here earlier
Dude, you
today.
suck.
The protests that have been largely peaceful erupted into scattered skirmishes and clashes between activists and officers. Police plucked it.
Real quick, if people see what's happening, is police officers are the man's weapon. It's not the military. A lot of people think it's the military, but the people in the military, they come from the war and they see what's going on in these protests, and all these protests around the United States. They have been having a lot of vets come and go toe-to-toe with police officers and saying, you're not going to treat a civilian like this. And in the last 6 months, there's been a lot of instances where past vets have gone into fights with cops, and they've come out in full uniform, representing, protecting the protesters. Now for them to throw their medals, that is a big deal, and I support them for that, because you and I were not over there, so you and I don't know the whole story. Just God bless that they came back. Many of our boys haven't. That was done here in Rancho.
Along with nearly 3 dozen arrests of Vagos and associates, cops confiscated body armor and even rocket and grenade launchers.
Dang.
San Bernardino County District Attorney Michael Ramos.
A ruthless criminal motorcycle gang has been terrorizing our community for years, if not decades.
Simple Green investigators say they're still investigating the rape of a woman by 4 Vagos here at the Starting Gate Bar in Los Alamitos.
They ain't got no feelings about nobody else or nothing.
Even their own women, as you can see spelled out on the back of their jackets, are branded property of the Vago who owns them. Charles Falco, who infiltrated the Vagos for 2.5 years, says women are treated like second-class citizens.
They're treated like dirt. It's not very fun. Women around 1%er clubs, they're very brutal and violent to our women.
And not just the women. In February, former Vagos San Bernardino chapter president Keith Silva, known as Rhino, was sentenced to 75 years in prison for murder and torture. It began here at this house in Fontana. The victim, a hang-around named Dennis Shorty DeUsis, was badly beaten by a group of Vagos.
To the point where he couldn't walk out on his own.
Prosecutor John Thomas
I heard
says
about that.
Rhino and the chapter sergeant of arms, David Kilo Beltran, now doing 50 to life in prison, tied Shorty up, drove him to the desert in Landers, and shot him dead. All for coming up $1,000 short on a motorcycle loan.
I would characterize it as savage.
You're going to smoke this mother. No one will ever know.
In 2004, state investigators caught Placer County Vagos president James Yak Yak Cross planning a couple of murders in the Sacramento area. One target was another Vagos drug dealer named Jason Bigwood Jordan. This AR-15 and 2 other murder weapons were given to the hitman, along with suggestions from Vago Ryan Hill, known as Boogie.
Follow him around, and when the time's right, like when he parks his car, gets out, leaning in to get his Taco Bell.
I saw that guy at one of the tattoo shops.
Jump out, do it. Clack, clack, walk up on him, pow, 2 more in his face. Beat it.
Wasn't even dressed
In
like
the
a biker.
Along with a small arsenal of weapons, agents confiscated a substantial amount of drugs, cash, and other goods.
What they're about is the money and the money, and I don't care how they make it.
Yak Yak and Boogie are now serving 20 to life in state prison. And according to this law enforcement document obtained by Fox 11 News, among the nearly 6 Vagos and associates arrested, Frederick Matthews, a national officer known as Sarge, who was an LA County probation officer, and Earl Brown, known as Duke, a computer security specialist for the State Department of Corrections.
Oh.
Falco says Vagos love those inside law enforcement connections.
To work within the police department, maybe their dispatcher or something like that that can run records, check license plates and stuff like that.
The Vagos have been the target of a half-dozen state and federal investigations over the past decade, including the 2006 Operation 22 Green here in Southern California. Vagos Hemet chapter president Big Roy Compton, who got 2 years for being an ex-con with a gun, was arrested along with 24 others.
The arrests are for dealing drugs, for murder, attempted murder. I know they don't like me to call them our local terrorists, but I'll put that name on them too.
A couple of years ago, here at a Reno intersection, Vagos actually forced a civilian van driver off the road and smashed out his window when he obeyed a traffic signal instead of their commands. Club members wear a patch that reads, "We give what we get." And law enforcement intelligence sources tell us what the Vagos want to get now is more territory and clout. That's taking them into Hell's Angels turf, and what they're getting and giving is a fresh trail of blood. We'll have that story next Sunday. Chris Blatchford, Fox 11 News.